Dear friends, so hope you all are well and keeping safe. Today I'm going to talk about a book given as a gift to me by my son on Father's Day, The Bombers Mafia, written by Malcolm Gladwell. Now, if you have seen my previous video, you would know I'm a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell. I have read all his creations, his books, and also have got a good fortune to meet him way back in 2012. So today I'm going to talk about the book, not about the book itself, but about my learnings from the book. There are about six learnings I have, which I'm going to share, and I hope you like what you hear. The first learning is what experiments we do in lab, and we know that is going to work absolutely great in the real world, not always happen in a similar way. The example taken in the book is from World War II. In World War II, the planes were mostly B-17, B-12 planes, and they used to fly at about 250 to 300 kilometers per hour. And their biggest problem was to drop bomb from about 30,000 feet up above in the sky to certain targets, which they used to miserably miss all the time. So take the statistics. If they are dropping about 100 bombs, if they can get two bombs on the target, it's a great success at that point in time. So it was really bad in terms of doing precision bombing way back in World War II. That was a great and big problem because at that point in time, what the usual forces believed was army is the only way to win battles or to fight, and Air Force was trying to make a mark. So at that particular point in time, there was a scientist with the name Norden. Not much heard about him in the books or in the history, but he created something known as a precision bombing machine. So in the lab, he took all the consideration, the wind speed, the way the plane will fly, which is about 200 to 300 kilometers per hour. The different environmental condition, for example, rain, fog, and other aspect. And he created a perfect mathematical model to ensure that he can hit the target with the precision that he wants to. He got great success in terms of what he built, and what happened during World War II was he was asked to create mass production of his device, what he created. And when he did so, all of his uh, calibrating that he did using hand has to be done in a great scale, and that's where the problem happened. So when the entire aspects was created, the entire device was shipped out to the Air Force, and it was used to again hit targets. It never used to meet all the targets. The accuracy increased by about 6-7%, but it was still not doing the job it was supposed to. This is my first learning. And again, the point to make is what happens in our thoughts, maybe in lab setting, and when we are tried all the experiments on it, not always it turns out to be the same in a real world. My second learning is about belief. Right, when you have strong belief about certain thing, even if truth is in front of you, you will completely deny it. You will totally believe on what you have ingrained in your system. Example taken from the book was at that time, as I said before, army was a strong force, and they are the foot soldiers who are used to fight battles and to win battles as well. And Air Force was trying to change the game. They basically were trying to bring in planes to bomb people from the top, and they claim to bring the war close to sooner, and to hit the targets at a more precision. But army was not able to believe it, and they never believed, even if it was in front of them, they never believed that Air Force or planes can win war for them. We see it all through in our daily life, like fanatics, religion. When we have a strong belief, even if we have the facts and the truth in front of us, our minds are ingrained to certain facts which we latch upon to, and when we have the truth in front of us, we never accept it and we go along accordingly. So that's my second learning, that how when we have certain belief, it completely whitewashes our mind and makes us to do things which we should not. The third is about leadership. So there was a General Lime, and he was known for his leadership skills. So again, back in the days in 1942, when he has to bomb some of the German sites in France, the planes were flying all around the target because the fear of getting hit by flak if they fly way on top of the army, and that's the only way he thought he can drop bombs, and bombs can go and hit the target. If you're flying from sideways and you're trying to hit the target, you'll never hit the target, and targets are getting missed. And he wanted to do something different, and he then decided that against all the rules and the policies at that particular point in time to fly right across or right on top of where the enemy was. And it was never done before, and everyone was thinking it's a suicide mission. It was about a 7 minutes flight to go over the target, and it's good enough time for all the flags to come and hit the plane and plane to become a wreck and come down. So what he did was he said, look, no one has done it. We are going to do it for the first time. He was a general, but he decided he's going to lead the troop, and he was the first person to fly over it along with his troop and give the confidence back to his team. So again, leadership quality, just a trivia, nothing happened. I think they could drop the bomb and they were not hit by the flak as everyone assumed. But again, a leadership style, when no one has done things and when you want your team, your people to do things, you have to always lead by example. That's the third point I want to bring to your notice. The fourth one is, towards 1944 when America was fighting Japan. That time, a new kind of bomb was invented. It was napalm. Not to go in details, but napalm was known for, creating a big fire, and that was created by the bomb that they have done at that point in time. And since Japan was mostly made up of the houses are made up of wood, and so the natural tendency was when you drop those bombs, it will catch fire. And General Lee May exploited this particular point to the hilt. He bombed, many cities within Japan, and which were bombed using napalm, and in fact, millions of people died because of that as well. The point I want to draw out is, while this was seen by a lot of people that you're killing millions of people, and for reasons sometimes not rationally defined, but if you see from other people's perspective, some thought it is the right thing to do, because what was happening that since Japan was not coming under control, what US decided was if they could not make them surrender, they have to go and fight on the land, and that would have caused about 500,000 soldiers from US side to go and fight in Japan, and equal force, maybe a little more from Japan, to come and fight on foot battle, and that could have caused maybe more casualties. Maybe the war would have lasted longer. And so at times people think that that bombing, though it was insane to kill so many people, it was heinous crime, yet people thought that maybe that is the right thing to do. Maybe it curtailed the war to a bigger extent, making Japan to surrender, hence maybe a lot of lives were saved. Again, what I want to draw your attention is perspective, right? From the lens you're looking at, it may look bad, but from the other lens, when you look, it may look okay from weighing all the factors that you have in hand. My fifth observation is very dramatic, in fact. So as I told you, Lee May was bombing Japan. He used napalm to bomb Japan. In fact, I know, as you must be aware of, atomic bomb was dropped on Japan later on. It was not done by Lee May, but it was not necessary according to a lot of historians, because Japan was already crippling because of all of the napalm bombing that Lee May was doing. So he killed millions of Japanese people over there. But when Japan finally surrendered, I think in the month of August 1945, then Lee May was retained to build the Air Force for Japan, and he spent a lot of time as a part of the peacekeeping force to build the Air Force base of Japan. And believe it or not, after a year or so, he was awarded the highest gallantry award from Japan. Irony it is, he was the one who killed many people, but then he was awarded with the gallantry award, the highest gallantry award in Japan, in terms of what he has contributed to the Air Force in Japan. So the biggest learning for me is that bygones are bygones. Politics plays the biggest role, and as time goes away, and when war ends, the perspective changes accordingly, and people who are your foe becomes your friends as well. And when they become friend, you also embrace them by open heart and arms. My last learning is also a very shocking one. Take this example, right? Everyone applauds, for example, Lee May for cutting short the war as an example. So when the war is happening and the people who are trying to curtail the war, either using the war methods or by doing peacekeeping elements, everyone praises them for all the good work, and history remembers them. And that's why I'm talking about Lee May today. I did speak about Norden, for example, of his contribution as well. But history never remembers people who have, in the forefront, may have curtailed war. Because of their good work, maybe there was no war that has happened. Those people are not remembered because we all believe in dramatic movements. We all remember people when there was a situation. Yeah, then the people helped to build, the country or nation, or otherwise a situation to be bailed out from a particular notion of things, rather than praising people who may have worked hard to not make a war happen, for example. We never remember them. So that's another shocking factor as well. We human being always provide credit to people who we see in action, rather than people who are not in action but may have worked in the background for saving the world, saving the nation, saving the country, or saving humankind. Those are my 6 learnings. I hope you like what you heard, and if you do so, please feel free to leave behind a comment. Like I always say, my book videos are never about book review, and this give you ample amount of opportunity to read the book and enjoy the book itself. And I hope you like what you heard and leave behind your comments. Take care now. Bye.